I'm sitting here as the chairman of Blackline, something I didn't think that I would be doing, much less doing podcasts for the past year. And I'm sitting here in our institute side. We don't really have a studio because we go wherever the work is. And today the work is at our headquarters here in Pennsylvania. It is the end of 2024, and we're going to be going into 2025. If you have been listening to our podcasts in order, you just finished one with Jason Richmond, where he did a wrap-up of the year and put me in the hot seat like I have so many others this past year. We're going to do a two-part series here before Christmas, dropping these two episodes, sharing with you different clips from podcasts over the past year that we've done, conversations with people that we've had. Probably one of the greatest values that I've gotten is the people that I've talked to, seeing where they work, how they do their work. Part one that you're going to see is a conversation with Keaton Turner where he talks about what it takes to get started. One of the phrases that he says is, you got to take the opportunity, you got to kick the door in. And then we also are going to be hearing from Matt Eshelman, who is the president and CEO of CHN Site here locally in our area in Pennsylvania. And he talks about, working your way to the bottom of the ladder, holding the ladder, and some really good points for leadership and just how to lead a team of people. Then one of my all-time favorite conversations is with another electrician like myself, except way, way cooler, Carl Murawski. We sit down in his studio where he's an electrician and he's also a videographer, a photographer. He reviews gear. He is about helping men and women find the best quality products to help them do their work. And so we sit down and just have a real conversation about what it is to get out there in the trades and how to present an image that makes people want to work with you. And then lastly, in part one, we close out with my conversation with Jason Richmond in Indianapolis, Indiana, at a place called the Heritage Group. Really cool place. I would describe it as Apple or Google, but in construction. They have what they call the center, which is where we're sitting when we talk to you about what it is to burn the boats, what it is to decide, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go after this. So there is a common thread in all of these conversations about starting, about getting out there and doing things and leadership. And I just wanted to share with you some of these conversations and the value that they bring. This is really, truly about having an honest and real conversation. So as you listen, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get some of the value that I've gotten over the past year. Take a listen. Let us know what you think. Step up to the line. Have a great day. So for those who are listening that might not know you, which that won't be anybody in the dirt world because they all know you, but you're one of the younger faces in the mining industry. I was reading the other day that you started Turner Mining in 2017 because you wanted to do something different. Mm-hmm. And you thought you could do that with people and culture. And so you might have thought this was going to be like this nice podcast where I don't ask hard questions. And maybe it will be. We'll see what happens. We'll see what you think is hard and what is not. But how has that been over the past few years? How's that been for you in building with culture and people and, yeah?
Well, I can tell you that had I known in 2017 what it would take to get here today, sitting with you with this gear, this customer behind us, I would never have done it.
Yeah.
Had I known the sacrifice, the energy, just the mental strain and mental drain. And, I'm not a person that has ever struggled with anxiety. I'm an optimistic dude. I'm kind of what you see is what you get, but there's no book you can read. You give me this book here on this table, and I can't wait to read it. There's no book you can read. There's no podcast you can listen to. There's no class you can take. Harvard doesn't prepare you for the massive kick in the mouth that entrepreneurship is. And you know this, right? And so I think that when I look back, making the jump was the best and worst decision I ever made.
Yeah.
It's been more rewarding than I ever thought. I never thought we would be at this level, especially in 8 years. Never thought we'd be at this level, but I also never expected what it would cost. And so here we sit, living with the decisions we've made. I don't regret any of them, but I would say to any aspiring entrepreneur, do not do it until you cannot breathe.
Yeah.
Do not do it until you have no other options and you can't sleep at night because you want it so bad. That's the time you go make the jump.
Yeah. Well, I think that you touch on something. I remember when I was young, I bought my first house and moved out because I wanted to move out and be on my own. And my parents were talking through, budget and this and that. And I remember my dad saying to me, he goes, "It's going to cost more than you think." And I was like, "Dude, I've done the budget. I did the spreadsheet, Dad, And what I didn't realize is I was starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And I didn't think of all the things that had been supplied to me over the years of my life that I didn't pay for. And I think with entrepreneurship, like you say, the cost is something that, and it's different for different people. And you don't know going into it, but if it's not something that is in you, and I think you said it like this, if you can't breathe, you can't not stop thinking about it. Well, that's when you make that switch, not before.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say is if you're married, man, your wife better be on board with it too. Because it is not a, hey, you're doing this and she's not coming along. It's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
It truly is. And I think that's pretty important to recognize. So,
well, I've got the greatest wife on the planet. When I started this, so I worked for my uncle, successful family business. He's a dirt mover, been a dirt mover his whole life. And, he's the guy that got me into this career. And when I came home one day, she had known I was, I think I had this deep itch that I wanted to scratch in entrepreneurship. And it really wasn't even dirt moving. I had several other ideas. All of them would have been massive failures, like a pizza restaurant and some other things I'm too embarrassed to talk about. But when I came home and told her, hey, I really want to go do something, she didn't question it. She didn't say, well, have you considered this? She said, I support you in whatever you're doing. I trust you with my life.
Wow.
We had a 1-year-old, 1.5-year-old little boy at the time, and just had a newborn and newborn little girl. And she's like, we're all in. And it's never been anything different. The trips that I've had to make, the late nights at the office, the stress, she never throws it in my face that, well, this is the decision you made. You should be, So I don't know how anyone that's an entrepreneur, to me, there's two key variables. If you don't have both, I pray for you that you can somehow figure out how to be successful. The first one, to me, is my foundation in the Lord. If I did not have that, I was speaking at a YPO thing here recently. I said, man, I've tried drinking, I've tried praying, I've tried, I've done it all, right? I've hired my best friends. If you do not have a foundation in the Lord, or if you don't know the Lord, and again, I don't want to get preachy. This is your podcast. You probably didn't expect me to say that.
I don't mind you talking about the Lord.
You will be so empty for so long. Doesn't matter how much you achieve or all the big equipment if you don't have that foundation. The second thing is my wife.
Yeah.
If you don't have a life partner, or a business partner, maybe you're too young to be married or haven't found the right person. If you don't have a partner that you can lean on the bad days, my bad days, I call them sell days. It's like, hey, am I selling the company today? I come home, pour a glass of wine. I'm like, why, my wife's name's Shelby. I'm like, am I selling this today? Because I am so fed up with it. And then she will talk me off the ledge. My business partner, Gant, he does the same thing. And so you just have to, in my opinion, the only reason I'm sitting here halfway successful with all this cool yellow gear is those two variables.
It's funny that you say that because I agree 100%. I'm very blessed in, I don't know how, my business partner and I often talk about, you bid a job in our world and you get a construction schedule, and you don't really have that all figured out when you bid the job. And so then it's like, hey, we have to get it done in this amount of time. And I was like, I don't know how you don't do that with a little bit of faith, because there needs to be some miraculous working out of how things fall together for that to happen. And obviously you got to plan all that stuff. But then also my wife, there were times where for years when I started the business, and even still, and she still says the same thing. She said, well, what did you feel like you were supposed to do? What's the last thing that you felt like you were called to do? And if that's what you feel like the Lord told you to do, then do that. Because I would come home and be like, so I want to go work at Home Depot. I was like, I just want to go get a paycheck, work at Home Depot, and
Life would be easy.
Oh, my goodness. Except I don't know that's what I'm called to.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we're sitting here today in Arizona before the heat comes because we believe that people have value, specifically in the trades. We believe that these things matter, and it's why we're having a real and honest conversation. Yeah. And then, like you said, my business partner, he's the same. Sometimes I talk him off the ledge. Sometimes he talks me off the ledge. Sometimes we're both on the ledge really pondering. But I think you have to have people around you. And for me, without faith, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
I mean, I can tell you there's been a hand in this, a divine intervention, call it whatever you want if you're not spiritual.
Yeah.
There has been something going on this whole time in this organization that's not me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a very normal guy. I'm not that intelligent. I don't even really know that much about mining. I know enough to be dangerous, right? I'm not an equipment expert. And so what value am I really bringing to the organization? To me, it's putting the right people around me. And fortunately, I made the decision to marry my wife, hands down the best decision I ever made, because I think who you do life with is the single most important decision you can make.
Agreed.
But then after that, who I bring into the business, and my business partner, starting with Gant, he has talked me off the ledge so many days, on days where, especially in the early days, where you barely make payroll and you don't know if you're going to have an organization. Having someone that can talk you off the ledge is super important, because it's lonely. Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is lonely, and people don't talk about it enough. And so, having that person in my life, and then from there, building out our leadership team and our management team. There was a phase, we've had kind of 3 phases of our company over 8 years, and you can read any business book and they will spell it out, and it's followed to a T. I'm reading Scaling Up right now. If you haven't read the book,
it's a good book.
It's a phenomenal book.
Yeah.
And
I would have thought you already read that based on what I see.
I read it years ago, but it didn't resonate like it is now.
Yeah.
Now, after living through some phases, phase 1, I hired all my best friends to come into the company, right?
Yeah.
These were the best dirt movers I knew, the guys that I had lived with in the past life and done work with. And so you hire them into the business, and it works for a while, right? You run fast and you break things. And then you phase away from that, right? You try to stand up a new management team. Some of those old guys don't like some of the rules and process that you want to build, and so they jump ship, right? They're like, well, this Keaton Turner's changed, man. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you should expect me to change. It's my duty to change. If I'm going to stay the same 27-year-old Keaton Turner, I can promise you're not going to want to work for me when I'm 47, And so phase 2, you bring in a new management team, right? And you stand them up. And I could talk for an hour about going through phase 3. We're now in phase 3. And, the whole time, it's my responsibility to put the best people in leadership positions. And if I fail at that, there's this saying, so goes leadership, so goes the company, right? Yeah. And so that's really my duty. And first and foremost, it's to stay out ahead of all that. So I've got to be investing in myself and proving myself every single day, because if I don't, I'm the one limiting the growth of the organization, the maturity of the organization.
That's good. That's really good. You touched on something. I mean, you brought it up, so I'm gonna push a little deeper on this. You brought the Lord into this. You brought your faith into this conversation, and so, and you're also a very public-facing figure.
Yeah,
you're out there. You're posting and things like that, and you're an employer. how do you handle when people realize that you're not a great guy?
Oh man.
Do you know what I mean? Like you believe a certain thing, and it says that this is how you're supposed to live your life, and how do you handle the fact that you don't always do that?
Well, so I would tell you first and foremost, I'm not a good Christian, right? I'm not a great friend a lot of days. I'm not a great friend a lot of days. I'm not a great boss a lot of days. Again, I'm a normal guy, and so I think admitting that I have a big ego, right? The company is named after me.
I did notice that.
It doesn't, you know, you wait another couple weeks, every single one of these machines is gonna have a big Turner sticker, you know. So I would say though that is the story of the gospel, right? We are not supposed to be perfect. We're not supposed to be free of sin, and we're not supposed to act like we're perfect.
Come on.
You know, I'm really okay just being okay.
Yeah.
And I think saying that and leaning into just being a normal guy, I think helps other people, you know, say he's different.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy on my heart. I was driving here this morning up at 3:30 to get out here early before the sun comes up, and there's a guy that he's not a believer in the organization, and I'm not preaching the organization, right? I don't want to I didn't find the Lord until I was 18, almost 19 years old, and I grew up going to church every Sunday.
Wow.
You know, and so I've got to figure out how my actions, my thoughts, my words draw people to the Lord, not push people away from me and push people away from the Lord. And there's a lot of days, I mean, if you took a sample, there's a lot of days where I would push people away more than I draw them to. And then there's days where I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders and I'm a good example of a Christian. But, you know, I tell my friend group all the time, I'm trying to be a good Christian today. Yeah. And it's just can I do it again tomorrow? Can I do it again the next day? And, you know, when you have your bad days, I'll go jump in my truck and just drive around and stop and reflect what really matters, what's important, why am I going through this? Well, it's probably because I'm, you know, not speaking to the Lord, not feeling connected to the Lord. And so, again, not to get too preachy, this is what works for me. And I think no matter what you build in your life, whether it's wealth or an awesome organization or, a great little family, humans are always going to be left wanting more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm already thinking about the next fleet that's bigger than this one, you know? And so to me, we're always going to be wanting more. The only way you ever satisfy that desire is the Lord.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the other thing that you were saying, and I'm not sure if Dave Ramsey said this or who, but it's like you talked about, you know, you paid for an investment, you know, to go and to learn. The people that you surround yourself with, that's where you're going to go.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and it's like, so if you want to be at a different place, don't take this wrong, but get different friends.
Yeah.
You know, meaning if you're wanting to be growing, your friends can take you one of two ways. You can hang out with people who are at a place that you want to be, that drive you to strive, or you can hang out with people that keep you where you are and even take you backwards.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, to me, comfort's a killer. And when I started,
the Marines call it a slow death.
And it can be in business a fast death. I mean, when I started in business, like I said, I brought all my buddies. These are guys that I trust. They trust me. It was comfortable for a while. Yeah. Everyone was comfortable. And, you know, when you look around and take a step back, we would have lived probably a slow death, keeping all of the friends in a friendly spot, and accountability was really hard, especially for me to them. And so, you know, for me, I want to put myself and our organization in challenging environments. We should be challenging ourselves to grow. I drew this graph on the whiteboard in our staff meeting at the end of the year last year, and it was showing the company is going to continue to grow kind of in an exponential fashion. But if you personally aren't doing the same, what's going to happen is your growth is kind of flatline and maybe up a couple percent a year.
Right.
If the company's growing 50% and you're growing 5% personally, the company's outgrowing you. If you're a leader in a department and you're not keeping up with the demands of the organization, I've got two options. And this is just me being frank. I can either hire your boss, who is meeting us up higher on that graph,
Right.
or I can displace you and put a whole team in place, and now we have to manage a whole team because one guy is not able to do that job in the future state. And so when you put it that way, it gives people an option. Hey, do I want to be a part of a growing company that's going to continue to have challenges, that's going to continue to put me in tough spots where I'm forced to grow personally, or do I want to have an easier job, an easier career, and go work for a company that's only growing 2, 3, 4, 5%?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I want to be the company that's challenged. I want to challenge ourselves. I personally want to be challenged. I want to grow, and so growth is uncomfortable.
Well, I think that you're touching on something that a lot of us seem to forget and miss in our culture today, and that is the importance of being uncomfortable. Because listen, I hate trials, I hate hardship, I hate all of those things, but especially in business, that's when I learn. Mm-hmm. Like, when some of the things that I've learned that I can now have hard conversations and make decisions that are unpopular and do things that sometimes no one else likes. The only reason I can do that is because I did them wrong and I learned how expensive they were and I went through that hardship.
Oh, absolutely.
Which produced the growth so that then I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to have this conversation, but I have to because it's going to be detrimental later.
Yeah. Well, I think there's, for me, if I look back, we have had more challenging days by a factor of 5 than we have had easy days in this organization. But I think the result is this, and I'm pointing to this fleet and this opportunity, this project. If we had more easy days as an organization, you wouldn't know who I am. You wouldn't be sitting here. We'd be a small company on cruise control. I'd probably run 3 jobs myself.
Yeah.
And so again, I think you look at any company, you look at Dana White and what he's done at UFC. He has had more hard days, more bad days, more challenging, more frustrating conversations than he has had easy days and easy conversations.
Yeah.
And that's how you build something, So I believe that, what I challenged myself with at the beginning of the year, we've got these words. My word last year was execute everywhere. My words this year are excellence everywhere. And, for me, doing the hard things gives you a chance to be excellent. If you run from the hard things, whether that's personally in your personal life or what your career decisions you're making. We've asked some people to relocate. That's super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We've asked people to take jobs that are beneath them, kind of as a tour of duty. That's uncomfortable. Yeah. I think if you're running towards the hard things, long term, you're going to be ahead of the people that are running away from the hard things.
I agree. I listened to a podcast. I think that I heard this on one of your podcasts, and I want to ask you this question because I think it's you guys have been building pretty quickly. I mean, if you started in 2017, we're not even at the 10-year mark yet.
Right.
And so, but I remember listening to a podcast, and I don't know if it was Dirt Talk or Entree Leadership or Turner Mining Live. It wasn't the line because this is your first time on here, but hopefully not your last. So
I hope not.
Yeah. But you talked about when you start out being like a pirate armada. Mm-hmm. Was this you? Yeah, you talked about this. Yeah. And then having to become a Navy. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I listened to that and I found it very, very helpful because I'm a founder.
Yeah.
And we always start with pirates.
Yeah.
But if you can't recognize when that time changes and it's so different because not all of the pirates can go into the Navy.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what you mean when you say that and how you identify when it's time to start to make that shift and how you do it?
Yeah, I think most of the lessons that I've learned, most of the hard days are that that I personally didn't recognize this thing sooner. And what my team calls it is cowboy, right? This was the Wild West. And I don't mean physically where we sit. My organization was the Wild West when we started.
Yeah.
You know, at one time in 2019, 2 years after we started in business, we did zero revenue year one. The first 8 months we did zero revenue.
Just explain what that means for a second if you're listening. Zero revenue.
Zero business. So I quit my job, a very cush job that I could have ridden out for the rest of my life with the family business.
Comfortable, huh?
Super comfy.
Yeah.
Quit that. And I thought, well, I'll just get some new customers. It won't take that long. 30 days, I'll have a new contract. And it was like 8 or 9 months before I got anyone to say yes. And the only reason they said yes is I bought the job. It cost me $30,000 to do the work. So again, doing the first one for free. So, you know, it was the Wild West. When we first started, year one, I did zero. The next kind of 8 to 12 months, we did 20 million. The next year, we did almost 50 million.
Wow.
And we had at one time 24 active operations in 2019. And we're almost 3 years into business. It was the Wild West. It was the best and worst year of my life. Wow. I'm talking lawsuits from employees because we weren't following the right procedures. I'm talking equipment on fire. Literally, we burned a haul truck to the ground because we didn't have an SOP to recover it from underneath some power lines. That's online. You can go look that one up. Learned a ton of lessons by scaling fast, and it was a Wild West. We were cowboys. We were dirt movers. We were loud and proud and in your face and build the brand at all costs, and you know, somehow figured out how to make some money. And then from there, I realized that's not sustainable. We can't be pirates forever. Otherwise, we're going to have a really short life, right?
Yeah.
Like you think about what's going on in Chicago. You can be a gangbanger and have fun for a few years, but ultimately it ends in jail or death.
Yeah.
And for us, the rate that we were running as a business, it was going to end up in death, right?
Right.
And so what we had to learn was discipline. We had to learn how to say no to some of our own people. We've had to learn how to say no to some customers and no to opportunities. We really had to slow down and get really good at what the military is good at, and that's every dollar has a place.
Yeah.
Every operation has a standard operating procedure. You know, we have rules, we have guidelines, we have an organizational structure that promotes accountability.
Yeah.
And so it really quickly went from the Wild West where we were cowboys shooting from the hips to now we make data-driven decisions. And we're not perfect at it. We still have a long way to go. But, you know, I think you've got to be very in tune with what you want to build long-term because it takes a lot of reps and a lot of years to build that.
Yeah.
And I want to be a company, especially here in the opportunity that we have in America, I want to be a company that is mining and running an organization via data. I don't want our emotions to get in the way. I don't want my ego to get in the way. I want the data to win. And, you know, sometimes data can lie to you and you still got to use some emotional intelligence and some practicality and some common sense. I think currently we're in a phase where we are relying too heavily on the data and we're losing some of that entrepreneurial spirit. You know, I'll sit in meetings, the team, who these are all really smart people, will say, hey, here's what the data says. And sometimes we need to back up and say, okay, but what does common sense tell us? What's practical? Like, this is the decision you want to make that's going to affect the whole organization. How do you think that's going to be received by a guy in the dirt who doesn't have any clue what we're trying to build towards? And so, you know, really, you've got to have people in your organization that can be translators. They need to be able to take what the executives want and translate that and distill that down into understandable language for the rest of the organization. That's been a huge lesson I've learned.
Well, and things are always moving, you know, like for other trades, we all have to work together on a job to get things done. Cause it's like, I find it really interesting that none of us actually build anything alone.
Right. For sure.
Like, you know, I can't get into a building and wire it up if you don't do your job.
Right.
The paver can't do his job if you don't do your job. You know, I mean, you guys are kind of like the first boots on the beaches, in that way.
I always say we're always the first guys on the job, and I also believe we're always the last guys on the job because we got to come back and finish. You know what I mean? So we're always the jobs last longer for us than for site guys, I believe, than anybody else, just because we got to get it ready, and then after everybody else is done, we got to come back in and clean it up. So they last a long time, and that cleanup part's the biggest risk, right? Because that's always the hardest part, to be productive and be efficient and just clean up and get done and get out. That's the game there. That's the other strategy, right? Is having the right people that show up and that can push and finish. And those aren't always ideal conditions. It's tight, it's slow, it's tedious, right? Where when you're out here in the beginning, it's wide open, nobody's in your way, and you can run 100 miles an hour, and then it goes from 100 miles an hour to about 2 miles an hour. And then that 2 mile an hour period is the biggest risk on most of the jobs as far as the profit margin and that kind of stuff. So it's just picking the right people and having the right guys. So we try to have a crew of 2 or 3 guys that pretty much are our finish guys and that have gotten really good at it and excel at that part of the job. So because it's super important.
We talked a little bit earlier about something that I thought was really cool, and I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but on that machine right back there, that D8, there's a logo of your CHN site sticker, and around the sticker you have these reflective lines, gray and white, around the sticker.
Yep.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about that? Because you told me something really cool about that.
So it's super important to us to thank the servicemen that have served this great country, right? So the night before, in World War II, the night before we stormed the beaches of Normandy, the Allied forces all got together and they're like, hey, this is going to be crazy tomorrow. Like, let's paint these stripes. Now they use black and white, but let's paint these stripes on all the wings of our airplanes on the bottom and the top, so that in the heat of battle you can see who's on your side. So we chose to put the stripes on all our equipment, so that's how we honor the men and women that served and built this great country. So that's our way of saying thank you. So if you ever Google, you can Google invasion stripes and see the story, but that's where the stripes come from.
So I absolutely love that so much. Can I steal it?
No.
And create a company and have invasion stripes? Like, wow, you said no? I'm going to steal it anyway. So that's awesome.
Thanks.
I mean, that is really awesome.
Thanks.
I think that's really cool.
We're blessed to live in a great country, and I mean, a lot of great men and women sacrificed and build it for us, right? So I think it's important that we never forget that, and we make sure we're always paying whatever kind of honor, respect we can to those folks that were willing to do that.
I 100% agree. I think that freedom and liberty are something that we probably struggle with and need to remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we maybe take for granted. This past week, I was doing a podcast in New York, and we stopped by the 9/11 museum, and it was pretty moving.
I'm sure. And
it reminded me a lot of what it is to be an American.
Yeah.
And the cool part about it was I remember where I was when that happened. I remember what I was doing, listening to Paul Harvey on the radio. Never thought that I'd be recording my voice and having conversations that people might listen to.
Right.
So, but being there, I was really struck by how much tradesmen and tradeswomen played a part in bringing our country back.
Sure.
I mean, the museum was just done with such great care, and I was struck by looking at the work that had to be done. I wonder what it would have been like to work on like what I would call a sacred site.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be, and they just did a phenomenal job. It was really moving.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So another thing that I find really interesting about your company is on your website, it says that I think it's 70% of leadership in your company comes from the field. So tell me why that is.
So I think it's super important to grow from within, right? And I think it's like that, to me, that makes you a better estimator, a better superintendent, a better anything if you start at the ground. I mean, that's where I started, right? Like at campground. When I went to see that guy to get that job, my first 6 months on the job was I walked around a rock crusher and I shoveled out all the shit that fell out from underneath the crusher so it wouldn't get built up and clog and clog up the belts, right? Like literally for 6 months I did that. And then the second job I did was I built a Versalock wall. So I carried pallets or blocks from a pallet to a wall for the next 6 months. So my first year in the business was doing that. So I think to me, it's just super important to come up through within, and it builds better. You get better, the team buys in more when you build from within and have somebody that, that's earned their stripes and worked up. And look, it just gives you a level of experience and a level of knowledge that you don't have just coming out of college or something like that. That's why we try to do that. And it's super important to me to, to give the people opportunity that deserve the opportunity. So, and build from within. So that's how our team has the 70%, is we've always tried to do that.
What does that do to the guys who start, and what is I don't like to talk about ladders in careers, because I don't think it is a ladder.
No, I agree.
I think it's a field and we're a team, and there are different roles, and there's nothing wrong with this role versus that role. But what does that look like what do you think it does for the man or woman that comes into your organization and they're starting with the first thing that you have them do? Does that make sense, what I'm asking you?
Not really. Sorry.
So, can we cut that out? I want to sound intelligent. What I'm asking you is, so it's my first day on the job at CHN site, and I see that you guys promote from within. Not only do you promote from within, but you proclaim it on your website. You say, this is what we do. What do you think that does to the person that it's their first day? They've never done this work before. They are the kid that came from the campground, or even better yet, they are the kid that came from the city or the concrete jungle or wherever, and they know nothing about this, but they're starting at CHN site with the first job that you give them.
So my hope is that it gives them the belief that if they show up every day with that attitude and that effort that I talked about at the beginning, like that if they put in their time, right, and they're willing to work for it, like you can go all the way to the top, right? Like it's all, if you show up with that attitude and that effort, like we'll teach you the rest. Yeah. But just that's the story that it tells to me, right? Like you have the opportunity to earn anything you deserve.
Yeah.
So.
And I remember I sat down in apprenticeship class, and I was like 18, and there's a 40-year-old guy that sat down next to me, changing his career, wanting to go somewhere different. And it's like, if you have that attitude and effort, it doesn't matter if it's been 40 years of your life and you're making a change. It doesn't matter if you're young. I believe that if you have the attitude and the effort, that you can go wherever it is that you need to go.
100%. Absolutely. So, and I mean, look, God bless some of us with talents that others don't have, right? Like that's another part of it too. Like, but you can still have a great life. You can still provide for your family, right? Which is why we all do what we do. I mean, to take care of our family and to provide for them. So like sometimes you can't go all the way because God didn't quite bless you with a couple things you need, but you can still have a great life being an equipment operator and provide for your family and take care of the things that you need to take care of and earn everything you want. So it's but the opportunity is there. So it's attitude and effort, and then a little bit of what God's gifted us with, if that makes sense.
Oh, it absolutely makes sense. So. This is why I don't like the ladder analogy.
Right.
Because it's not about climbing a ladder. Nope. It's about growing.
Absolutely.
And when we grow together, it's like, well, where do you best fit? Maybe you're not to be a foreman. Maybe you're a supporting guy, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
And if you go after something that you're not, that's not in you, then don't go after it.
Sure.
Because it's going to make you miserable.
Absolutely.
Providing opportunity, you can be your first day on the job, or you can be at the bottom of the ladder, as you said earlier, meaning leading the organization, being responsible. You can provide opportunity at both places.
Absolutely.
And the way that you do that is by sending it, by getting out there, doing the work, by caring, by leading, by doing. And a leader doesn't mean that you're the foreman. I love, people misunderstand what leader is. It doesn't even mean that you're the boss.
Right.
Everybody can be a leader in your own way and in what you're doing.
Sure.
And that starts with caring about what you're doing and actually putting that in what you do.
Absolutely. I mean, I can think of a specific example right now. We have a pipe layer on one of the pipe crews, right? He's not the foreman. He's not the boss. He's not anything but the pipe. I shouldn't say anything because the pipe labor is super important. But he's not any of those titles, but he leads that crew, right? Like he gets those men to do more than they would do if he wasn't there, right? And that's the other definition of leader is, getting a team to a place they wouldn't go on their own. And even though he's the pipe layer, he gets that team to a place they wouldn't go every single day, just because that's just who he is.
Yeah. Listen, it is hard. Everything is hard. Whether it's what you're doing in talking about, gear and things like that, you have to build that over time. Whether it's learning a trade. We were just talking a little bit before we got started about the experience of people that are out there. And it's like the only way to get experience is to do it.
Yep.
And to do it for a period of time. I remember when I was in the apprenticeship, and I've said this before, but it bears saying again. It's not a bad thing to repeat. When I was in my 20s, I started as an apprenticeship right out of high school. I'm pretty sure I got a job as an electrician apprentice before I graduated. And so I was like 2 or 3 years into it, and I thought, man, I don't even need to finish the apprenticeship. I know what I'm doing, Maybe I could have said that if I was like, I don't know, a painter. But and nothing against painters. I love painters. They're very fun. But there I was, and I remember the journeyman foreman that I was working for at the time. I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do some side work, and I'm going to do some of this and some of that. And he looked at me and said, you have no business doing that, boy. He's like, and what I didn't realize is the amount of experience that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be somewhere that I haven't. Oh man, this is good. I wanted to be somewhere that I hadn't earned yet. And I talked with a guy the other day, and we talked about value. And it's like, we're drinking a good whiskey right here. And it's like, when you have to earn the money to buy the whiskey and you know what it costs, you're actually able to enjoy the taste, the flavor. You understand value. My sons, my boys, they love Legos. They did not begin to understand the value of their Legos until I started making them buy their own Legos.
Yeah.
That's the truth of it. And so we have to earn it. So for me, that's how my apprenticeship was. And the biggest thing is I'm still trying to earn it now.
Yeah. Well, you touch on a good point, and this is something else that I've learned, and I try to tell other people, but a lot of times they're not receptive to it, which is if you want a life that's a little bit extraordinary, right? I'm not talking about, being, on the field during the Super Bowl or something like that, but you just aren't satisfied with the status quo. You're going to have to do things that are outside of the ordinary.
Boy,
so,
that's the truth.
When I was I remember specifically during my apprenticeship, I was making $13 an hour, which I thought was all the money in the world. And I was also running the wrecker at night. So I was running the wrecker at night for $50 under the table per call. And then I was like, well, okay, I got my license. I don't necessarily need to run that wrecker anymore, but I'm used to doing stuff at night. I'm going to start going to the local community college. And that's what I did. And then started going to some of the ABC classes, right? For for foreman training, for plan reading, for almost anything that they would offer, I would go to. And I'm like, because if I want to excel in this career or wherever it goes, I have to do things that are outside of the ordinary. And I remember asking other guys like, hey, I'm going to go do this plan reading class. You want to come with me? Nah, I know how to read plans. You never thought that maybe they might know something that you don't?
Yeah.
Maybe. Have the humility to understand that no matter who it is, you can learn from them. So why wouldn't you take the opportunity? Nobody ever took me up on my offer. And now I can say that, I am working for probably one of the biggest electrical contractors in the Northeast. Certainly one of the ones that people try to get into and often fail. And a lot of those guys are still working at those old companies that I left.
Yeah.
So if you want to do the extraordinary, you have to go above and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think if you want to earn it and to be able to understand it and to win it, the fact of the matter is it's a competition. It is you're going to get what you put out of it, and if you don't step up to the plate, then someone else is going to step up and take it from you.
Yeah.
I mean, not to shock you, but if you want it, you do have to go farther. You
Yeah.
do have to go farther than the next guy. And I think the thing that is interesting about that for me is it's not as hard as I think it is on the front end. When I get to the other side of whatever I thought was so impossible or so difficult or unsurmountable that I didn't want to do, it's like, wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Now, some things were,
Yeah.
but I was just talking with a guy earlier today about cold plunges.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking at it and talking about what that does and how it works, and he was just talking through it. It's like it seems when you first start like this is just I can't do this, but then as you continue to plug away at it, then it just becomes natural. It just becomes what it is that you do, and so. Sometimes I feel like people just need to send it. And especially when you're young, like if you were in your early to mid 20s, we can say this now because we both are coming from the same generation. There wasn't a lot to lose at that time. And so that's the time to send it.
Yeah.
That's the time to do that. That's the time to be like, because like for me, I worked all day and I went to school at night.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did, and it ended well for me. And then the time of the experience and the things that I learned, being able then to invest them in the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, just realizing that our time is just that. It's an investment.
Yeah. I think another way to put what you just said, a way if I could just kind of
So
paraphrase.
listen, if you're listening to the podcast here, he's going to say what I said better and more articulate. So that way, and this is how a professional does it. So listen.
If I can just kind of echo back to you what you said, I think that there's supreme benefit in imperfect action, right? Just doing it, right? I
Yeah.
would have never started doing videos if I had taken the time to do what I thought I needed to do, right? To prepare, to get the right camera, the right lens, the
Yeah.
right lighting, figure out how to upload to YouTube. I would have missed out on all those months of learning the lessons from actually jumping in and doing it.
Come on.
Right? I mean, you have to just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I accept that I'm going to make a ton of mistakes and I'm going to do it anyway because those mistakes are going to be what I'm going to learn from.
Absolutely.
And that's the best teacher.
It is.
There's no doubt about it. So along with that, right, not only imperfect action, but also you seem like one of the types of people who I enjoy speaking with because you're never really comfortable, right? If you and I, were totally satisfied with being journeyman or being a foreman running a small crew, that's what we'd be doing now.
Yeah.
It's totally viable. You can earn a good living. Yet we're here now after work. You've come from far away to do this thing, which hopefully bears fruit. But we
Yeah.
don't know that.
Yeah.
And so people like us who are never really comfortable and never really satisfied with where we are always going to push and forge those new paths. And the only way you really do that is through imperfect action and learning from those mistakes that you make.
Yeah. Well, I think the difference between it being a mistake or it being experience is just that. It becomes experience if you don't quit.
Mm.
But if you quit, then it becomes a mistake. But you want experience, which means that you don't quit. You don't give up. You press on. You do it like you talked about it. I do it wrong. Hey, that didn't work. Let's figure out how to do this. Like I have built a business and, my business school was, oh my, that cost a lot of money. We did that totally wrong. Don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and I've been very lucky to, or fortunate to not have done anything that has been below the waterline, or at least I can bail water faster than the other guy. I don't know. But
Well, let me ask you this. Did you ever come across people who were trying to be the gatekeepers of moving forward? Because I remember specifically, as an apprentice, young, hungry, like you, thinking that I wanted to take on the world, I wanted to learn, how do I read specs? Where's the submittals? I want to see what that is,
yeah,
And talking to my foreman on the job and him telling me, no, you don't see those things. Go back and do what it is that you're doing.
yeah,
And then later on, I remember talking to the owner of that company and saying, hey, I think I might want to run a crew or learn how to be a project manager or whatever. And he would say, that used to be a title and the thing that they used to have, but that doesn't really exist anymore. You're better off where you are now.
Yeah.
you keep finding people. As much as I would love to think that everybody's like you and I, rooting
Yeah.
for you and trying to
Yeah.
show you the path, a lot of times you're going to find people who are going to try to obstruct that path
Yeah.
because they themselves were too fearful of moving forward.
Well, and I believe that your desire to learn and grow, listen, and I'm not wanting to bash people, but the truth of it is they're afraid of you succeeding and going through that, because that means and identifies that they missed it.
Yeah.
That reveals that, oh my, I should have continued to push. And what you have to do if you're in that situation, and you're a great example of it, it's like, listen, if you're at a place and they're not going to let you, if you have the drive and the desire to grow and they're not going to let you do that, then go where they are
Yeah.
going to let you do that.
Right.
And you don't, oh boy, this is going to get dangerous. You don't want to work for a company that wants to hold you back.
Right.
And that's coming from someone who owns a company. Like, you don't want to work for someone who's like, you know what, that title doesn't really exist anymore. No, you don't. Like, if I have a young man or a young woman that's like, hey, I want to learn more. Well, I'm like, well, let's show you the door. Here it is. Now, if you're saying that and you're just saying it because you want more money or you want more of this and you're not willing to put the time in, well, I'm going to sniff that out really quickly. And then I'm going to say something like, yeah, those titles don't exist anymore. Like, you know, I mean, the deal is you got to want it.
Yeah.
You got to want it.
That's absolutely true. And, you know, to your point, right? I remember I did a video about how to be a good apprentice.
Yeah.
And one of the things I said in there is show up a little early.
Yeah.
I remember our best apprentices, I'd go in, they'd be reading the paper or they'd be
Yeah.
on their phone or whatever. They'd just get an idea of how the day was going to go. Took them 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they'd stay 10 minutes later. And I got so many comments of people saying, I'm not staying for any time I'm not getting paid for.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fine. But in 10 or 15 years, when you look back and that guy's your boss,
Yeah.
that time might have been
There it
well
is.
spent.
Well, and the deal is then you're not going to get anything that you're not getting paid for.
Right.
I mean, it's just
You're
that
right.
simple.
Again, you
So-
have to go above and beyond if you what
Yeah.
you want. And now some people, thank God, don't want what's above and beyond because we need plenty of people to, you know, hang racks of conduit,
Yeah.
be on the pulling crew, whatever it is. We don't need everybody to be the chief. We need plenty of Indians.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that if you don't want that.
Right.
That's okay. But if you're sitting there and you're complaining and whining about it, either step up or shut up.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. But it's like when I made some changes in my life and I wanted to present an image, whether it was the clothing I wore or the way that I talked or the way that I walked, whatever it was, it has always benefited me well. And like you said, if you're full of shit and you dress well, people are going to find that out. You know, if you're real and authentic and you dress well, it's like that's how you're introduced, then it's going to help that conversation happen faster and move faster.
Right.
And
right.
that's why we do that.
Yep.
It's the same as I tell this to superintendents and foremen on the job. It's like we actually pay our guys, you know, to be able to wash their trucks multiple times a week because we drive our trucks on and off job sites and they get muddy, they get messy. And listen, you know, that's a badge of honor in some ways. But when you drive on a muddy job site and your truck is clean, people are like, what? Who's that?
Right.
Like they notice.
Sure.
We actually don't advertise with big billboards on the side of our trucks, but man, we have a specific color that they are, and we make sure that they're clean. It gets people's attention.
Yeah.
So,
Well, even though we're not saving lives, imagine this same
speak for
scenario.
yourself.
Okay. We might be costing them,
goodness.
depending on how well our installation went. You know, imagine this scenario for a second, right? You're getting surgery, and your surgeon shows up in torn scrubs, blows a snot rocket, and goes, "All right, let's do this."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is
I
that
got
the
dressed
guy?
in the dark. I'm
Yeah.
just wearing what I'm wearing
That's
this
it, yeah.
morning.
He's got a blue top on. He's got brown. He's got mismatched shoes. Is that the guy that you really want? No, maybe there's an eccentric surgeon out there somewhere, but that's not the guy that I want. I want the
Yeah.
guy. Why shouldn't we be the same? I mean,
Yeah.
we're not surgeons, but is our job any less important? And I don't. Again, it boggles my mind as to why people don't see that.
I'd love to get your take on this.
because there are very few people I can talk to who understand where I'm coming from and understand the culture of the job site, right? Now, we want to expect more of the workers, but at the same time, just to look at it from all angles, when we don't treat them appropriately or of that level, then why should they do any more? And I'll give you a specific example. On the job that I'm working on now, the guys have to park 3/4 of a mile away.
I hate this.
They have to walk there, carrying their lunch, carrying their tools to be on site at 7 o'clock or quarter up to do the stretch and flex, right?
Oh, you guys do the stretch and flex.
Yeah. I mean,
can we come and capture some video of that? That would be like really good.
I mean, it's honestly, you know what it looks like? It looks like 100 people doing the Thriller dance all together. You know what I mean? Like, remember those Chinese prison things where they were all doing like the coordinated dance? That's what it looks like. Everybody's out there in their high vis and everything. But okay, so you get to the job. Now, you know, you have to use the bathroom. Well, you have to go to the porta potty, right?
Yeah.
Which is never clean.
Oh,
right?
no.
So again, you're using the porta potty. You're eating lunch in the utility room, sitting on a bucket, right? So again,
I find sitting on a live transformer to be way more effective in the cold because you actually get a little bit of warmth.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But again, if we're requiring or asking of these people to present themselves as professionals,
Here it is. Bring it out.
why aren't the contractors treating them as such?
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to ask because, again, you know, just try to look at it from all angles. A lot of these people would, you know, graffiti up the bathrooms if you gave them to them. If you did give them a nice lunch area, it would be full of trash. And now, I'm not saying from everybody, but you can't tell me that doesn't happen. There's a reason that the contractor parking lot, when everybody leaves, is trashed.
Right.
But I wonder if there's not a bit of a symbiotic thing happening there where they go, well, they don't expect much of me. They expect me to be a pig. That's what I'm going to do. And if we can bring everybody up to realizing that they are a professional and try to, again, elevate their view of themselves and what they expect of themselves, then maybe it could be a little bit of reciprocity from the GC or the site that you're on.
Yeah.
It's just, again, it's tough, right? I want to expect this of you, but I'm not going to give you any of the benefits that come with that. Right? I'm asking you to be a professional and present yourself well, take care of your grooming, but at the same time, you have all these downsides that have always existed. I don't know if the chicken or the egg comes first, but something has to break that cycle.
Well, I don't think it matters which one comes first because the fact of it is that we need to step up to the line, and we need to do that.
So it's the same way that the SEAL teams do, right? I mean, like, they're looking at the guy next to them.
I like where you're going.
This is the guy who's responsible for my life.
Yeah.
And you cannot be a part of our team unless you meet that expectation. And if you falter and you can't catch back up, you're out. So that when this contractor rolls up, you know what they're made of. This oh geez, we got the, you know, again, I mean, if I could use the special ops or SEALs or whatever, the equivalent of that in the electrical world or the plumbing world or whatever it is.
Whatever it is, yeah.
So you come in and, oh boy, people know that you hold yourself to a high standard and everybody else on the site knows it because even to work for that company, to have that company's logo on your hard hat, you have to be made of a certain stuff. I don't know if that's too lofty a goal, but if I had my own company, that's what I would want to try to strive for, is that we're going to get every possible benefit of the doubt and we're going to treat you better than anybody. But you got to reciprocate.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anybody do that yet. I'm not sure it's not too pie in the sky, but
I don't think it is too lofty because I think what you're actually talking about is culture. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's one of the things in the trades that I think that we have missed because we get so caught up sometimes in doing the work that we forget about the culture that we're building. We're so focused on the work that we actually don't focus on culture, and so it just ends up being whatever it is. Yeah. And when we invest, and this is coming from, for me, our company really changed when we decided to invest money in culture. And I can speak to this because it was really hard for me because I can't put my hands on it. And it costs a lot of money to invest in culture. Like, construction, it's like electrical in particular. Copper wire is like going to the casino, man. I mean, seriously, we would get quotes on copper wire and the supplier or the vendor would be like, and this quote is good till 5 p.m. You know, it's
A
like
lot of the items,
yeah.
especially now.
Oh,
right? Yeah,
it's crazy. And so, but it's hard to make money. I know it's hard to make money. But if we invest in the culture of our people, and then we demand that they meet that culture, two things happen. One, it draws people who are attracted to that culture, who want to be a part of it, and it forces the others. You don't even talk to them. They're like, this is not the kind of company for me, man. I'm out of here. And listen, I'm saying it because I've seen it. I've done it. I've watched it take place. I have watched people come to our organization and take a huge pay cut because they're like, I want to work here.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this as someone who's been a part of building a company. Jury's still out whether or not we're successful or not. I'll let you know when I'm dead. So, but the fact of it is, when you invest in culture like that, I've seen this happen, where it attracts talent, it attracts people to it, and money matters, but it is not everything. And it attracts those people to it, and it deflects those. If you're looking at the bottom line, if you're willing to make that investment up front, it deflects those that don't meet that culture. You save a ton of money not investing in someone who doesn't really want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. And imagine the people that you would attract.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said.
I can imagine them, because some of them work for our company and they love our culture, and I'm like, why didn't I do this like 10 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah. And the companies that are going to be left behind, because you're drawing from that labor pool with just shrinking.
Yeah.
And getting the best of the best. You know, you're almost untouchable. You're your own gravitational force.
Yeah.
Bringing people in. I mean, that's very powerful.
Well, I think that's a way that we can elevate and we can change it. Another thing that I want to go back to that you talked about earlier, and I want to push on this again, because in the industry, in the construction world, in the trades world, I do not know why some of the old timers are like, well, I don't want to. I have this happen a lot where people are like, well, I need experienced help. I need experience. Maybe it doesn't happen where you are, but it's like, you know, our people, and I love them all, and it's because it's been ingrained in us as a society and a culture for the past 50 years. Well, I need experienced help. Well, how are you supposed to get experience in what we do? Like, how are you, if that old timer that's leaving isn't training someone or teaching someone or mentoring someone, how do they learn?
Yeah.
And so I just want to call out, if you're the guy saying, hey, I need experienced help, and you're not mentoring, you're part of the problem. And you need one, what I said earlier, I'm calling you out, because you need to be called out. Because I get it. It is easier to do the job yourself than to take the time to teach someone else how to do it. It absolutely is.
Right.
But it is not sustainable.
Right.
Not only is it not sustainable, but when you train someone like that, and you've experienced this, I believe, and I've experienced this, you train them to do your job, you're able to move to the next job.
Right. Right. A lot of people, though, they have the mindset of, now you're going to take my job.
Okay.
And it's like this scarcity mindset. No, you're not going to take that job. I mean, if anything, now you're going to be seen as a teacher who is an asset to that company, creating more great workers. But
Absolutely.
I think what we're starting to see, though, now, it used to be, when I started, and I think I caught the tail end of this, and so you probably did too, was the old job site culture, where the guy who was running the job, whether he was the super or the project engineer or whatever the title was, used to do what you do.
Yeah.
Now what we have is a lot of kids with iPads and construction management degrees who have no clue what we're doing. And I told you a story earlier about the guy with the windshield in the excavator, and it's like,
Which was hysterical.
I can tell it again if you'd like. We have a lot of people who simply don't know what we do and how we do it. And I don't mean, I say this because I remember seeing this very specifically. I don't mean that you spent a summer working for your dad's company. I mean, you worked for several years in a place where nobody knew your name, nobody gave a shit.
Yeah.
Where you were treated like everybody else.
Yeah.
Because if you get the silver spoon treatment, then you're not getting an accurate representation of what it's like out there. I can't tell somebody to go run 4-inch rigid conduit in a parking garage if I've never done it myself and know the challenges that come with actually raising up your arms, feeling your jacket lift up and expose your belly, and feeling that freeze that comes through in January in Connecticut. How are you supposed to understand that if you've never done
I
it?
can feel it right now. Oh, that's awesome. Although I can't lift 4-inch rigid above my head anymore and run that. So unless we're using a scissor lift to get it up where I need it to be.
And now there's a whole thing, ladders last. Have you seen that? They're trying to eliminate all ladders from job sites. Everything's going to be a scissor lift. So, we're seeing things change. And I understand that sometimes it's for safety and sometimes it's for the better. But I think that is one thing that I miss. I miss seeing the guy who was just a little old to be handling the tools because his body was breaking down. But the knowledge was there.
Yeah.
He was the guy overseeing the job. And he almost had, just precognition about what was going to happen on the job because he had seen it so many times.
Do you know what that's called?
Experience.
Yes.
And it seems like that is something that is just, it's a finite resource that's disappearing.
Yeah, it is. It is. But we can change that. And I believe that we can change that. And we have new tools and things that we can do. Like you said, is it sitting down with the logistics guy and recording a conversation? It's like we can actually take that, and it's not 1 = 1 anymore. We can take that with technology and things, and it's not perfect, but we can multiply out and actually touch more people. And if you want it, if you want to learn, there are places that you can do that. There are cultures and companies that are willing to do that. Mm-hmm. And like you said, people are going to go there.
Yeah.
If that's what you want.
That's it. These places attract people. There was a reason that I went to the contractor that I'm looking at now. It was a place that I always wanted to work because they were seen as the premier contractor.
Yeah.
And to get there is not easy, and I'm sure, again, it's not cheap. I've never seen that side of it, but you can't tell me it's not worth it.
So, for me, it was the scariest number I ever looked at, but I made the decision to do it, and we did it during COVID, so I probably wasn't in the right mind, just because the world was on fire.
Hold on, guys. Pause real quick. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
This has stopped. I don't know if you did something, but I just looked down as you saw, and...
Well, that's fine. I can take time to breathe. It's not any worse than earlier today. We were doing a podcast, and everything went dark in the
I'll tell
snow.
you what, though, this has been a good flow. You got a great voice, by the way.
Oh,
You really do.
We established early on that I don't have a face for this, but I have a voice for it.
You got a good look. You got a good look, too. But you do have a good voice. Listening to you speak and stuff like that, it's hard for people to modulate their voice and actually sound... to be able to listen to somebody speak for a long time, it's not an easy thing for somebody to do because you have to understand the kind of sentence flow.
Do you know how you build that? I can explain to you how you come to that point. You yell at people as a foreman for years and years and years and years. That's what you do.
Yeah, maybe there's something to it. Who knows?
Well, I must say, and I know we're not done yet. He's going to fix that, and then I was literally getting to the point where I was going to start asking you some questions.
Sure.
To wrap it up, but I must say, Carl, one, it helps that you and I have been in the same trade. It does, but you are real. I love. I believe, and I don't know you from Adam other than watching you online and seeing that you just tell the truth whether people want to hear it or not.
Yeah.
No, whether we're talking about gear or having a conversation right now, and it's like we got to do that stuff.
Yeah.
We got to be having that conversation so that people can figure it out.
You can't make a good decision. Okay, here again, this is something I totally learned in the field, right?
Yeah.
You can't make a good decision based on anything but fact. And I remember somebody telling me this is something, again, one of those phrases that I want to put on a board somewhere. Is the only thing worse than bad news is bad news late. Tell me, right? Tell me what the deal is so we can get it as soon as possible. And I will say that that's one of the things as a foreman, you have to be approachable.
Yeah.
You jump down the throat of everybody who makes a mistake, because I make mistakes daily, right? If you jump down the throat of everybody who makes a mistake, and they're afraid to tell you about it, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. You have to be there and be like, all right, you're a dumbass. We're going to fix it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
If anything, you got your guys back.
Yeah.
Right? So anybody else in any other trade, the super, come at me. I'll explain what happened. I got you. And people need to know that, right? But
yeah.
And so it really kind of goes back to the same idea, which is whether it's the only thing worse than bad news is bad news late. It's all basing your next decision on facts.
Yeah.
Even if that's not what you want to hear.
Yeah. Well, and wow, I'm glad we're not recording for this part. We live in a culture and a world where it's like people don't want the facts.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't want to hear it. It's the facts.
I know.
You know, and it's like, and it's really dangerous.
It is. Well, it allows people to create their own reality, you know? Because now you have these notions which are based on bullshit, you know? And it's like...
Notions based on bullshit.
Well, when somebody tells you something and you go, wait a minute, everything in my brain is saying that's not right.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that it's real. You're telling me the sky is orange. I just don't think that's true. And that's why there's so much cognitive dissonance now. You're just like, no way that's the case, right?
Yeah.
It's just... And I see that more often than not. It's. I agree with you. I don't. We talked about this the other day too, but I don't love to again. It's very rarely I get to speak to somebody in this kind of format who's been where I've been. But he was saying, you know, one of the big things that used to be fun about the job is being able to talk to the guy next to you, tell him jokes that would make a rat vomit. You know what I mean? And like, you know, the ball busting that would go on. Not that you would yell at ladies. It's not like New York, right? You know, yelling at girls walking by. But the job site culture was a blast.
I love how you just destroyed an entire state with one statement. It's not like New York.
Not like New York, yeah. But, you know, right? I mean, you remember that? Like, the best times of my life in the job were when we would throw the radio in the corner. Everybody would kind of agree on a station. You'd be busting stones the whole time.
Yes.
Trying to outwork the guy next to you. And it was fun.
It was fun.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Especially these big jobs. Now, residential is pretty different because, you know, it's kind of the Wild West.
I don't know. I don't do residential. I never have liked it. And I won't say that on camera either. But like,
I started doing residential, then 2008 happened.
Yeah. Well, I know what you're talking about. For us as a company, I love when I hear my guys say this. So we work on treatment plants and different things, and so we have to do shutdowns sometimes. And I had a young guy come up to me and he goes, it was a 30-hour shutdown. Like people were awake for 30 hours. I know that maybe we're not supposed to do that, but you know, when you are powering the plant with a tractor trailer sized generator, and it's millions of dollars if they aren't done by a certain time, we just worked our asses off. And we got to the end of it, and this young man comes up to me and he goes, I think I had the most fun in the last 30 hours that I've ever had at work.
Yeah.
Because it was totally different. It was literally like, all right, the world's going to end and we're all here to save it, man.
Totally.
You know, and it was...
Yes, exactly. And you get that feeling with some of these things where there's real stakes. You're the hero in your own little situation.
Absolutely.
And it's great. And everybody wants to fucking high five at the end.
And you celebrate and you feel great.
Yeah.
That kind of high doesn't exist in the office world.
Burn the Boats is all about if you're going to do something, you know, there's don't hide a boat over in the bushes, don't hide something over here, and it's all talking about if you're going to full send something, if you're going to go after it, doing just that. And the amount of people who are successful when they burn the boats, meaning they're like, I don't have a backup plan, I'm all in, I'm going all the way, and those who do have a backup plan or way out, they basically talk about how you're setting yourself up to fail. And I thought that was really interesting because when you do certain things, it's really scary.
Yeah.
But even if you go through the history of that statement, burn the boats, it's about getting that full-on commitment, because that really is the only way that we can really make positive change, is to be all in.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to read the book. Never read it, so it's funny we both got each other books. And as a big-time reader, it's wild that you got me one I haven't read. But it fits with my DNA in a big way. My personality is all in or none at all. So I'll be super excited to read the book, understand it, and maybe learn a little bit about myself.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a good one for sure. You're in two camps. These were your words. So why don't you just share them with us, because I think they're really important, and it's clear this is what the one camp looks like.
Yeah, so what I said was people and businesses are in one of two places. They're either in learn and grow or in protect and defend.
Yeah.
And very much so, the Heritage Group is in a learn and grow mode. They're investing.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah, big time. They're learning, they're innovating, they're creating, they're trying new things. You know, to me, that's what it's all about. When you start to get into that protect and defend mindset, you start saying no a lot and
Yeah.
reducing all risk. And it's like, if we're going to take the dirt world where it needs to go, or skilled trades where it needs to go, we've got to be willing to step up and try new things and do new things and lean into new experiences, because that to me is where growth happens. And,
I agree.
So yeah, real excited about that.
So, here at the Line, we pride ourselves in being authentic and real. And so if you're listening, you can't see how I'm fighting bugs off of my face because we're sitting out in the woods. But yeah, we don't edit anything, even when I get like a mosquito in my eye. So it's great. So
I'd much rather be outside. So
I love it.
I'm glad that we're outside.
I'm very glad that we're outside. I absolutely love it. And I love just the facility and, the essence of what it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
I find, this might be a weird word for it, but I find it very encouraging.
Oh yeah.
I want to
like that.
be in the learn and grow school of thought.
I like that.
Well,
you told me, hey, I'm coming to Indy. Let's record a podcast. And I'm like scared to death, but super excited. And so the only requirement was, hey, find me a place.
That is
and
correct.
And many know that BuildWit's headquarters is in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're here in Indianapolis, Indiana. And, as a remote worker, I love it and I hate it. I didn't think doing a podcast in my home office was going to be a lot of fun. So I wanted to try and find something, super creative and innovative, and a place that you guys might be able to see and that we can start to shine a light on to really inspire, people within the industry about, what it is and what it could be.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad that we're here, and being outdoors it makes me closer to the dirt world. So I love it.
Well, I mean, you really used the right word. It's better than what I said. Inspire is that's really what it is. And the fact that an organization and a company can inspire others to do it better.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're here for. Whether, Bill Witt would say making the dirt world a better place. Blackline would say lifting the view of the skilled trades. But it's the same thing.
100%.
And we exist, both of our organizations, to inspire people to do it differently. Very
Well, let's just be real. I mean, we need companies in the construction industry to make money, to make more money, to be profitable, to build profitable businesses. Because when you as Bob Chapman spoke at the summit last year, who wrote the book Everybody Matters, the business model is build an incredible business and then invest in your people, and that's the flywheel.
Yeah.
And you have to make money to invest in those people. And so that's part of what our mission is all about, is providing education, training, spotlighting these organizations that are doing it well.
Yeah.
And so that the rising tide rises all ships. And that's what we're
That's
after.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're outside of our normal format, but I love it because this is just this is what we're here to talk about.
Sure.
This is truly what we're here to talk about. And I want to go farther than I am today, tomorrow.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's why we're sitting here together.
Exactly.
We're united.
Exactly.
We're figuring it out.
Exactly.
We don't have it all figured out, but we can definitely figure it out together.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think that's something that, you talked about your leadership team. You talked about some of the things that you guys do. And I love that because you're sharing with people what you're doing that works because you want it to work for them.
100%. They can take some of those simple principles, they don't cost a lot, implement them in their businesses, and it can literally change the organization.
Yeah.
To me, that's what this is. That's what the abundance mindset is all about. It's share everything.
Yeah.
And, take the good, bad, ugly, and different and figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
And take bits and parts and pieces of it. And, one of our core values is be the stagehands, not the stars. And part of that is shining a light on great organizations doing great things so that others can pick it up and run with it.
Yeah. I think that is, I mean, you guys are doing a lot too. Like, we've talked about media and marketing, which, just to be clear, if you're in construction, your media and marketing probably isn't where it should be, just because we're the last to the table.
Yeah.
So, chances are you might not even be listening to this. But But I mean, we really need to be investing in that. We need to be doing better at it. And some people are really, really shining with that. And you guys are, and you're shining the light on people. Earlier, you said we were talking about a podcast that I did with a client of yours that you guys had done some work for, and nobody knows that. So you really truly live out the, there's the stars and we're the stagehands, but it's like, really, that's what we need to be doing is promoting and lifting the view of the trades in that way.
Yeah, and I'll just say this too. It's something that Dan and Aaron and Randy and Chase Harris, who leads our marketing at BuildWit now, that we've been kind of thinking through and talking about. But people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And
with people they know, like, and trust.
With people they know, like, and trust. I think Simon Sinek or somebody said it first. I'm not 100% sure, but
lots of good books out of that
lots
guy.
of really good books out of that guy. Yeah, love to see him on stage one of these days at the Dirt World.
I fully recommend and support that.
He's on the list. So we'll see if we'll see what happens. Manifest that into real. But the point that I'm trying to make is, there's this company marketing and personal marketing.
Yeah.
Individual brands, personal brands, and business brands. And as you're thinking about, I'm thinking about doing business with Blackline. And it's the last thing that we want to do.
Yeah.
But people are going to look up Blackline, and they're going to want to know who owns it, who leads it, what's going on. And so they're going to go check out not only Blackline's profiles, but they're going to go look at Joshua Malat. And they're going to want to know, is this person somebody that I know, like, and trust? And so one of the things that we're after is, and we're trying to think through this right now, is how do we encourage more people to be like you, or to be like the Herb Sargents of the world, or to be like the Aaron Witts, or to be like, these foundational business leaders that are also telling their story and communicating and building trust with people, because they need to build the company brands and whatnot and do those things. But it's like, people are going to go and look at everybody who's making an impact within that organization and decide, is this somebody that I want to do business with? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's important to just state, from Blackline's perspective, and definitely from Joshua Malat's perspective, the know, like, and trust is definitely who I believe that BuildWit is for me. Because I feel like I've really gotten to not only know you guys through listening to your conversations. I did a podcast with a guy by the name of Aaron Nick, and he made a comment. He really educated me on long-form podcasts. And he said, you can't hide who you are in a long-form conversation. And so I think that that's been one thing that's really helped me get to know some of who you guys are. And then just, your investment in people. It's like, I want to be around people like that because I feel like it's not a waste of my time.
Right.
And then the trust piece is, you guys are constantly earning trust. Like, I would just say to anybody that's listening, if you have a company that's looking for marketing and for someone to shine the light on your company, that you guys are someone that they can trust. Because you truly are living out, making the stars your clients and those people, and you're not worried about your own promotion, which is why I'm shouting out for you right now, because it's like, I believe that is the way that we should do it.
Yeah.
Because your work will speak for itself, and the best clients, you've been in the industry for a long time, the best clients are the ones that say, hey, that guy over there, that's the guy that you want to work with. We used him. He was great. He did this, this, and this.
That's right.
Because for me, those are the people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
Because I know that this person isn't going to recommend them.
Yeah.
And this is one thing I've learned, in the marketing world, is it's just like your phone. It's so easy to be fake, and you have to be very intentional in marketing to be real.
Yeah.
Because it's and listen, in the trades, in the dirt world, that's why we hate it so much. Because in our world, you can't not be real. If you're not real, it's going to show up. Instantly. It's going to show up. And it's like, so when you're dealing with a trade or a skill, like in marketing, where, you can promote this and there might not be truth behind it.
Yeah.
We have to be very intentional with our cameras, with our messaging, all that stuff, that there's truth behind what we say.
That's right.
For sure.
Well, and as I just think about, like the dirt world and being relatable to everybody that's out there, whether it's marketing services or whatnot, as well as I do that, when you're partnering with people, whether it's in an estimate or
right.
in subcontractors or, whatnot, that like, there's like the list, and it's like, these are the people that like, and trust, and that you want to work with, and they're going to get your best pricing. It's because they got great personal brands. They got great company brands. You can count on them. You're going to work through challenges together and really find those win-win opportunities. And then you have the others.
Yeah.
And it's like, you build a reputation. And
there it is.
And today, we have a responsibility and a huge opportunity to build our brand, to build our reputation, so that you can move forward.
I think one of the things that I would say that I recently have learned about something new about reputation, especially in the marketing world. There's two ways that you can go about it. You can be building a reputation, or you can be creating an image. And, it's like, if you're focused on the image of your company or your own personal image or whatever that is, image is not always reality.
That's powerful.
And reputation, that is the reality of who you are. And that's why, like, we talk about mistakes. We talk about lessons learned. We talk about these things. And it's like, I want to build a reputation because my reputation is going to be, he does things wrong. But he's going to stand by it. He's going to learn from it. He's going to move on, and he's going to be honest about it. That's the reputation that I want.
That's right.
And I believe that is far more valuable than image, because an image is just that. It's like a picture, and it's like, that picture is two-dimensional.
That's right.
And it can be cracked, it can be damaged, and it doesn't support anything. But when you build a reputation, it's very much like building a building or building infrastructure. It produces and it does something, where an image doesn't do anything. It just lies to people.
Amen.
So I think that's really important. If you're going to invest in marketing, make sure that you're investing in the right type of marketing, because image will negatively affect your reputation.
Yeah.
But reputation will never create a wrong image.
I got to say this, a little off script, but you talked about best clients.
Yeah.
I just want to add, I would probably have regrets if I didn't say this. Some of the best clients that we've ever worked with are when everybody's on board, all key stakeholders.
Yeah.
From the top down, and they believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
We've worked with people that you've got a group, and people are just in different camps and different places, and it's hard to really tell your story and be a part of that. So it's just like, when you're ready, everybody should be investing in it. Everybody should be investing in their mission, their vision, their values, their storytelling, and doing these things. But it helps when you're united, and all key stakeholders are bought into what you're doing.
Well, I think I 100% agree, and that comes to if you're not all in, which is something that you eat, sleep, and breathe, it won't work.
That's right.
I gave you that book, Burn the Boats.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we talked about this earlier or not, but basically it's like, if you're not burning all the boats, if you're not hiding it, there's a post that Blackline did a few months ago, and it was like, the guy made a comment, and he's like, on the post, and it wasn't our post, we reposted it, but he's like, don't hide a boat over here. Don't do this over here. Burn the boats. Be all in. Go all after it.
Yeah.
And that's when you'll have success. If you're saving a little dinghy over here, or you have a backup plan, or you have a way out, well, then you're preparing to fail. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time today.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Good deal. All right, man. Thanks. We're out.
100%.
All right.
Dude, I had a blast.